Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have 5 tanks to show. Now, these 5 are not for noobs. So warning, noob players, do not drive these tanks because they are not for newbies or noob players or just not experienced players. Now, we have already done the top 5 players for noobs, and those are more sort of heavy tanks, tanks with armor that people can get away with making mistakes, whereas these tanks, you can't make mistakes. If you make mistakes, then you will pay the price. And of course, being a newbie player, a not so experienced player, you're prone to make mistakes. Now, the first tank I'm going to be talking about, it's not the tank on your screen. In fact, I'm going to say it's 6 tanks, because the number 1 tank, I think, is really not for noobs. I actually sold because I absolutely hate it, and it is the Waffen FL10, the newish tier 10 waffle tank. Honestly, that tank is so hard to play. It's the auto loader, no armor, and it really, for me, it does suck. I hate it, and it is a very, very difficult tank to play. But moving on to the tank on your screen, the FV4005. Now, this is also a very difficult tank to play. Now, there's a number of different reasons. One, it is the auto loader, so it has 4 shells, so it means you have a long reload time. And when you have a long reload time, yeah, you're just going to get penetrated. And because of your armor, you literally have no armor whatsoever. And the other thing on the reasoning is just how tall the tank is. It's everyone can aim at you, everyone can see you, everyone can penetrate you. Even if you come up against a 30% player driving this tank, they will be able to penetrate you. So yeah, it's a very, very difficult tank to play. Moving on to tank number 2. Tank number 2, likewise, we've gone with the Grille, because the Grille, you know, again, it's got no armor, it's very, very juicy, and everyone will hate you. Personally, I love the tank, everything about the tank, the alpha, the speed, the accuracy, the pen. Honestly, I love. I mean, just look at you can snap shots, shots like that. But yeah, it really isn't for a newbie player. If you play this as a newbie player, then you're just going to get ripped apart. Honestly, you're going to get penetrated. You're going to get ripped apart, and you're not going to be able to do anything. Likewise, like I said, I absolutely love the tank. It makes you think, and most of the tanks on this list kind of make you think. You can't just, I mean, look at that. There's only a little bit you can pen on that FV4005B, and I still managed to penetrate it. But yeah, it's again one of those tanks you have to be very, very cautious, because you don't want to be spotted and you don't want to be looked at, because as soon as you are looked at, then you are going to get penetrated. So the Grille, tank number 2 on this list. Moving on to tank number 3. And we have the RHM Panzer Wagon. Now, I've recently done a video with this saying it is not for noobs, so I kind of had to add this. If I wouldn't have added this tank in a not for noobs, then yeah, that would have been kind of weird. But like I said, I'm not going to talk about the tank too much, because I have recently just done a video on the tank. It's a very good tank in the right hands. In the right hands, like, people can really, really, really perform well in this tank. They can pick up damage, they can pick up assistant damage, and overall, like, they can just perform really good. But yeah, if you're in this with if you're not an experienced player, then I wouldn't choose this light tank. There are other light tanks that I would go for. Things like maybe the T100 and even the Sheridan to some extent. But this one is definitely not a tank that I would recommend for the new-ish kind of players. And when I say newish, I do mean noobs. It's just a polite way of saying noobs. Moving on to the next tank. And of course, we have my old favorite tank, the Leopard 1. Now, this is a fantastic tank. If you play this correctly, it can be one of the best medium tanks in the game. Now, the only reason it's not my favorite tank anymore, because a tank called the XM66F has come out, which I just think is insane. But it is still one of my favorite medium tanks in the game. Again, like I said, it makes you think. It makes you think about what you're going to do, because you can't just rock up like you can in a T22 and bounce almost everything. Everything's going to penetrate you, and you know, you've got every good things about the tank, like, so apart from the armor, the penetration, the alpha, the speed, the, you know, the accuracy, everything almost about the tank is fantastic apart from the armor. So you kind of have to go sort of second line, like I am here, sort of behind the tank, and then use your DPM. The DPM is fantastic on the tank, so you need to kind of use that. And if you're front line, then you're just going to get penetrated. Like if you come up against one-on-one with an E50M like I just did on my own, then there is no way that you're going to come off. Now this guy behind me, how rude, stealing all the damage. So the Leopard 1, still my favorite, one of my favorites in the game, but it definitely isn't for a noob player. Moving on to the final tank on this list. Now, we've gone with the TVP because, like the Leopard, very, very similar to the Leopard. However, this is probably a little bit more difficult to play because it doesn't have the capabilities like the Leopard's got. It has the long reload as well. You can't go hold down really, because you're just going to get penetrated like we just did there from the Object 268. But again, a pro player that is playing this tank will dominate the battle. Honestly, you can dominate the battle with this tank if you are a pro player. But if you're a newbie kind of player, then honestly, you're just going to get ripped apart. There's not going to be much you can do driving this tank, and especially because it is the auto loader, you will struggle. You'll struggle on the reload, and just in general, you'll struggle playing this this tank. But it's still a good tank. I've said publicly that I'm not a lover of it because I just don't have the skill set anymore, especially to play this tank or to make this tank work. And that's why the Leopard 1 is no longer my favorite tank, because I can't make it work all of the time. Where I used to sort of 9 battles out of 10 make it work, have a good game, but now it's kind of like 1 battle out of 10 I actually have a really good game, and that is exactly the same as this tank right here. Now this does have advantages because it has the 4 shells, so if there is a tank that is low hit points, then you can take them out pretty quickly. The reload time in between each shot as well is quite low. I mean, just under sort of 2 seconds I think it is. So yeah, not massive reload. But the magazine reload is quite long, and again, if you are getting chased by other mediums, if you're in a line of fire, then you are just going to be absolutely torn apart. Now these tanks are subjective. Of course, you may be a 40% player that enjoys playing these tanks. Now I'm not saying it's not for everyone, but ultimately these are the tanks that I think are not for noob players. Doesn't mean noob players won't like them, but they just may struggle in them. And of course, there may be other tanks as well. Let me know, what tier 10 tanks do you think is not for noob players? We are going to go down the list. We're not going to do it straight away, but obviously we've just looked at tier 10. Eventually we will also look at tier 9 and tier 8. We're probably not going to look at any lower, but we're going to look at tier 9 and tier 8 for noob players or not for noob players, and tanks for pros. Now there are tanks sort of in the middle, like E100. E100 is great. Noob players can play it, but they don't know how to play it. Tanks like that are not just for pros, and they are not just sort of not for noobs. They're kind of in the middle. So we will kind of touch on tier 9 and tier 8 in due course. But for now, again, let me know what 5 tier 10 tanks you think are out there that are not for noob players. For now, hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.